Now, I have a quote to drop on you. This is from Marcus Aurelius, your favorite Stoic philosopher and mine. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Now, notice he uses thoughts, not feelings. I love coffee. I am invincible. I can run through walls. I can lift cars. The feeling passes, and you have to move on with your life. We are live. Welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about the highs and lows of the acting and Hollywood industry and finding joy along the ride. I'm E-Kan Song, and this is
Rían Kelly.
There you go. That's the mood that we're in today, everyone. Follow us wherever you find your podcasts at Actors Guide Podcasts, all social media for fun clips during the week. If you want to support, share a review. We also have a Patreon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Does your pet get the yips in auditions? Does your little friend literally shit the bed at callbacks?
Welcome to the Royal Academy for Dramatic Barks, where your puppies will be trained by acting legends Ellen Barkin,
Mark Ruffalo,
and Sir Patrick Stewart. Sign up today.
There's this one post that Leslie, the great Leslie Kahn herself, she shared a video. Perfect timing. I'm not sure if you saw it. There's a study. Young kids drawing, half of the kids were given a reward for their efforts. The other kids, the other half, were not. What ended up happening was the kids that were validated with a reward, they eventually stopped drawing, even though they loved it. The kids that were not validated for their drawing continued to draw because they loved it. This is called the Over-justification Effect. And what ended up happening was their brains were being rewired. Their mindset was rewired to want this reward. And it eventually was not effective. And then they stopped drawing altogether. So in a way, when the external reward comes into play, the internal reward disappears. It's a really great kind of parallel to what we do as actors, because most actors love what they do. It's just when you get to the real world, as far as paying the bills, getting paid fairly, and then the grind of doing a 9-to-5 side hustle, whatever day job, eventually we start to lose sight. I know I've started to lose sight over why I want to do it in the first place. It kind of ties into a couple things that we wanted to talk about today.
No, I love that, because I think that it's really interesting, that because I think when I talk to a lot of people who work in other industries or jobs, but I hear people say, I'd love to just retire and never have to work again. I think if I won the lottery, I would still want to do this. You know what I mean? I still want to be in a film set. I still want to, I love that environment. But it's sort of, just when you were talking about it there, it sort of reminded me of like child actors who have success very early and find that transition hard into, being actors as adults. You see that like a lot. And I think maybe that has something to do with it, because if you're rewarded that young with all of this attention and praise and everything else that comes with that, when you don't get that, that's got to be a tough transition. And
exactly.
Maybe related to the same thing, where you're no longer getting the validation that you once were.
100%. It's also interesting because we're talking about kids who, we've talked briefly about this, the drawing on the right side of the brain. When we start doing art, whether it's drawing or acting or playing, I mean, ideally we all kind of are keying into that sense of play and freeness that kids naturally know how to do and can do. It's just when we become adults and have real adult things, then we start to lose sight, kind of like what you were talking about with the child actors.
Because I think it becomes infused with a lot of other things that are not just play for the sake of play. I mean, the stakes feel high. I mean, this is my own experience of it, but like sometimes the stakes feel really high. Like if I don't get this right, it has ramifications for, the future, or what I want to do, or what I've done so far, the time I've put in, the effort I've put in.
Well, also I'll add to the fact of you going into an audition saying, I need to pay my rent. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you're talking about the artistic existential crisis, and then add on top of it, hey, what am I going to do for rent this month? and my parents are worried about me because I became an actor. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also speaks to, I've talked to a few people about this recently, and like just this idea of effort and how, like we talk a lot about how this acting is not necessarily a meritocracy, you know what I mean? It's not always the most talented. In fact, a lot of the time it's not the most talented actors that make it to the top or whatever. I've come across, there's a feeling that where some people think if they work really hard, if they kill themselves and they work really hard, they're entitled to a certain reward based off of that. And this is not an industry that necessarily rewards that. It's not like you don't have to work hard. I think you do have to put the work in. But there's something about seeing effort that's, for whatever reason, unattractive. When I see how hard you're, it's like somebody who's like acting really hard and you see them acting. Ease is far more appealing for some reason. You know what I mean? Like watching ease is really attractive and appealing. It was like, this recent photo shoot I did with Matt Kallish. He said, and I thought this was brilliant, and I thought this is a great analogy for it. He's like, once I see that you're doing something deliberately, he goes, you've lost me. When it looks natural and inadvertent and real and, interesting, that's way more appealing than something that smacks of like deliberate forced effort. And I think that because of a lot of what we're sort of fed on social media, there's this idea that, you have to work really, really hard. But then the natural sort of progression from that is well, then I should get a certain amount of rewards. And that's not really true. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily true. It's like pre-planning choices in a scene.
Yeah, I think it's a lot what we're talking about at the con as well when we talk about the organic versus the technical. You can have, you kind of need both, right? You need the technical, you need
do,
the organic,
absolutely.
You need the fuck it or the dare to suck. I just thought that was a great point because it's I hope to work with Matt Kallish soon to have that kind of understanding with the actor during the shoot. I think that would be very encouraging because, sometimes a lot of photographers don't talk. A lot of photographers don't talk as much or how they guide you.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was, and this is the thing I found about, really good people are really good at what they do. He was excellent at sort of direction and conversation and explaining or getting his point across about what works. And I felt so relaxed and I absolutely, and I think that point applies to so many different things. When we see effort, it's off-putting, whether that's in acting, whether it's in, the dating world, whatever it is, when we see someone trying too hard, it's off-putting. And I'm not sure, I don't know what the psychology behind that is.
Completely agree. And to be honest, as actors, we're trained to ignore the camera and just to be, right? I need to think of that more often when I'm taking headshots. I'm not nearly as comfortable taking a headshot session than as I am acting, but I need to think of that more. If you're taking a photo or you're taking a headshot, you're not trying to portray or force anything.
But I think that's the craft of it. I think that's the skill. That's why good acting looks effortless, because you're in such an artificial environment and there are cameras and lights in your face and people moving around. It's having an awareness of that, but not in any way showing that you have an awareness of that. There's a scene, and because I was sick over the last few days, I just had time to watch things. So I watched all of Adolescence, which I hadn't seen.
Oh, okay.
There's a fucking scene in that, not to give anything away, but Stephen Graham cries his eyes out. And it's the most vulnerable thing I've seen on film in a long time. I mean, he just, I don't know, it looks like a really intimate human moment. And that's the skill of it. Like, of course there's cameras around, and of course he had to do it more than once because, like, we know how they shot that show, and like they shot it, all in one take. Right. So you have to get there every time, but there's no hint of self-consciousness or.
And it's a really good reminder when we're actually taking video. It's a collection of still photos all put together. You know what I mean? This past week, I auditioned for a TV show. And I knew the creators, and I knew the type of shows that they made, and they made a note, and I don't think it was off-putting, or I don't think it was misguided. If it feels like acting, it's off.
Well, but I think that applies to all acting. I mean, that has to be all acting.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I
true.
mean? Like if it looks like acting, you've lost. You know what I mean? Like and I think everybody sees it. Like, I don't think we're special in seeing that. I think people like Leslie are better than most at knowing why. When something feels false, you know it feels false. We know as humans.
We started off talking about the over-justification. Now, just to keep in mind that, this we kind of veered off a teeny bit with the drawing study is what is the actual why of what we're doing. I knew that going into, I had very little expectations when I became an actor. I was like, hey, this is kind of a crazy field. It sounds fun. Let me just do it and see where it goes. Money was never the reward. Fame was never the reward. That was never a part of the conversation. And now looking back on it, and, especially after doing this for 90 some episodes now, I realize the joy of acting on camera and creating, absolutely, with the way that the industry is, absolutely is not for the money. So in a perfect way, after the strikes, I was like, yeah, now it's perfectly clear with the way residuals is going and with the way our contracts is going and actually being an adult professional actor. Now, in a kind of nice circular way, it comes full circle where I just realized, oh, it absolutely is not about the money. That's part of the reason why I resonated with this drawing study, children's anecdote.
I think it's wonderful in some ways, and I do agree with that, and I think it's it keeps you in it for the love of it. I think it's also
very privileged. It's a very privileged position that we can hopefully a lot of actors can get to that point.
Yes, and I agree it is a privileged position to be in. And when people talk about how unfair the industry is, they're not wrong, but there is no fair. You know what I mean? It's not.
Exactly.
However, I do think that, because of the fact that to stay in this, you have to really love it, I think. It does leave people open to be taken advantage of in certain ways, because, I mean, people know that. People know that actors will do this, so they'll put up with quite a lot. It's the reason why people sign on to in perpetuity contracts and, ignore AI regulations and that kind of thing.
I don't know if you knew this. Have you ever heard this quote? To be honest, I think it's many actors. Famous actor, it could have been Marlon Brando, it could have been John Candy. There's versions of this. An actor's on doing press, and they say, I actually don't get paid to act. I get paid to do press. Have you ever heard that?
No, but
basically the entire job of acting was actually a complete joy. It's doing they get paid to do all the press and all the waiting that they absolutely do not want to do, and that's why they get paid.
Also a very privileged position, I have to point out, because
yeah,
a lot of actors don't even get to do that. So,
well, yeah, that's true. I mean, you might like this John Candy version. Then you don't pay an actor to act; you pay an actor to wait.
Yeah.
This kind of goes into when you were talking a little bit about ease. So you did a transcendental meditation workshop. I don't know if you can share about it, any things you learned. I don't know if Rick Rubin's gonna, strike us down with a lightning bolt if you talk about it. Are you allowed? Are there any things that you gleaned from that? Can you? What was that experience like?
Well, it's just a different form of meditation. I
don't even know. I don't even know what that means.
There's different ways to meditate. There's mindfulness meditation, there's breath meditation, there's mantra meditation. TM is mantra meditation. It's just I was just curious to explore a different way of doing it to see if it suited me. But I think everybody has to, if it's something you want to do, you kind of have to figure out what works best for you. And people swear by TM. I'm going to keep it up for a while and see how it goes. But I do, I've meditated. There's not too much I can really say about it. You know what I mean?
So it actually is private.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, it is. But
wow.
they keep it fairly they keep it fairly private.
I mean, Rick Rubin has popularized it. He's a hardcore TM person too.
Yeah, David Lynch was a huge TM guy and started the David Lynch Foundation, and they give scholarships to people to do the TM workshops, and it's a form of like mantra meditation, which, but you know, they have their own way of doing it. Like it's not secret in the sense like you can find out what it is online, but it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a different way of doing it. I have a sort of a morning routine that I stick to every day, and meditation is part of it. And
yeah, I have a morning routine.
Yeah, so meditation is a part of it. So I'm always looking for a way to kind of do it, you know, as to enhance it or go as deep as I can, or get the maximum benefit from it, I suppose. Meditation just gives me a ton of clarity and a ton of peace. I think that's the main goal of it, because I think that I have a tendency to kind of live at a high level of adrenaline, or, you know, stress, or run around and just be busy. So I think it's a great way to kind of set aside time to just, you know, do something totally different and then move into the day.
I love that. I think that's actually where we're very similar. I do not have a proper practice, but I do occasionally meditate, and I also see huge benefits. The fact that, hey, you can run around like a chicken with your head cut off all the time, and when it comes down to it, that's day in, day out. You kind of need to find the balance and be able to, you know, wind down. I actually started doing Calm. The Calm walkthroughs, 10 minutes a day. A lot of their walkthroughs is like, because I've also done yoga before. I've done various things where you kind of need the quietness, right? Yoga was one of the things where it's like athletics, but also it's you know, there's a lot to it holistically. Is this a weird flex? I've always been good at yoga naturally. I know that's a weird flex to be. I think it's a weird flex to be bragging that you're also good at meditating. I find myself, you know how like they say, if you have trouble sitting down quietly for 5 minutes, do it for 2. If you have trouble doing it for 2 minutes,
absolutely right.
Exactly.
Absolutely
And I like, it's joking, but it's actually a lot of Atomic Habits kind of popularized this, and it's kind of like that's literally the easiest way in. If a minute is hard, do 30 seconds. And so 100%. And so I actually enjoy meditation as well, and I've also, you know, I could go 15 minutes and I'm like, oh wow, time really flew by. I do appreciate it. So Calm yesterday, there's one, and I kind of want to segue into this because this is actually where we kind of differ a little bit. There was a one Calm meditation recently. It was talking about, it's less about the thoughts, but it's more about the feelings. When feelings come in, whether it's anger, anxious, anxiety, resentment, they were describing it like these are all temporary random guests to your house party, and they come in and then they go. When we start getting into the feelings portion of it, because I can easily meditate, to be honest, I think feelings are pretty stupid. I think they're useless.
Sorry?
So out of all these conversations that we've had, I never asked you this. I think feelings are really stupid.
What do you mean stupid?
I deal very little in feelings. I think most people, I think if people dealt with their feelings less, they would probably accomplish a lot more. And to be honest, be a little more successful and probably be a little happier. All these feelings are so temporary, and I want to think that they're very meaningful and we could still learn a lot about ourselves. I just realized, especially because we're in such a feeling-oriented business with actors and creatives, feelings, when I look around, to be frank, I feel like they do more harm than good. Now, obviously, this is a big generalization, but I'm trying to get a better understanding of it because I do like to find balance, and I know that I can't run around 110% all the time. That being said, feelings have very little to do with my day-to-day. I'm mostly doing, always doing, and feelings has very little to do with my workflow. Now, if you're new here, this might sound like a shock. It might be like, wow, you don't care about feelings? It must be such a hard way to live. I'm doing okay with it. It's actually not that bad. I'm reporting from the other side. It's actually going quite well. And so it does me great. Now, I know that to an extreme degree, when you're not in touch with your feelings at all, obviously that can have detrimental effects. So I do want to say I'm somewhere in that spectrum. So back to the calm metaphor. They're all temporary house guests. And you say, and then I think the goal of the meditation was, you can with grace and ease welcome this temporary house guest. It could be anger. Okay, I see you. You're here. It could be extreme joy. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And these are all house guests that are joining your party and all that stuff. And I'm trying to, it's great that you have control over that. My point is if I'm talking as someone who wants to accomplish stuff, I don't know how much it does for me. And in our industry of a feeling heavy business, I thought it does more harm than good. I think they're stupid. Yeah. So I would love to hear how you explain this to me.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to start.
You're so keyed into feelings and blah, blah, blah. They're all good. And
but, okay,
like,
but
how do you explain it?
Let me ask you, what do you mean by feelings? Do you mean emotions? Do you mean emotional states? Do you mean feeling happy, sad?
Oh,
annoyed?
Yeah. I think they're around the same.
Let's narrow this down. Okay. Are you talking about extreme emotions, or are you talking about any emotions?
I don't have a strong opinion about any of them.
So when you, and you said something there that I think is interesting. You said it's great that you have control over these things. I don't think and certainly in mindfulness meditation, which I think calm is the point is not to have control over your emotions in any way. It's to not get attached to them.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. Thank you.
It's not like you control them.
I feel like I've gotten keyed into that through meditation and just through mindfulness. But yeah, you're right. That's a better way to describe it. I'm not saying I control my emotions. Yeah.
So what generates the emotions is a thought, right? We agree on that. What generates feelings and emotions starts with a thought.
You know, it's so funny. That's a great point. I didn't even bring that up. I feel a difference between thoughts and feelings. But you're right. They both come and go, and you don't really control them. But I actually distinguish thoughts and feelings. I don't put thoughts and feelings as equal.
I'm not saying they're equal, but I think the feelings follow the thoughts. Because if I'm angry, it's usually because I am annoyed about something, or I'm not accepting something as it is, right? If I'm something there's some situation or person or thing that's objectionable to me, and I'm annoyed at that. So the thought precedes the feeling of being annoyed.
I don't feel that way. Now, I have a quote to drop on you. This is from Marcus Aurelius, your favorite Stoic philosopher and mine. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Now, notice he uses thoughts, not feelings. Now, obviously, I'm not a scholar here, so there might be many interpretations, but I actually do distinguish the difference. So if I'm, say, meditating quietly for 30 seconds or a minute, and a thought pops up and says, hey, don't forget to buy the, sugar at Trader Joe's. Or be like, hey, remember that time that you were growing up and your dad said this? Or I don't necessarily attach an emotion to that thought. Usually my reaction to it is as an observer, oh, that did happen. And then I kind of just move on. So I've never really attached a feeling to a thought necessarily. Now, sometimes it might happen, but that's not a common occurrence for me.
So when you meditate, though, you're trying to achieve a certain feeling, no?
No.
You're trying to achieve a certain state of calm and serenity.
No, I'm not trying to achieve anything.
So why do it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, that's not a bad way to put it. I like that. I use meditation as an opportunity to reset. Now,
Okay.
if you're saying that, hey, my intention is I wanted to feel calm, that was never how I would describe it. I could say that, hey, I meditate and blah, blah, blah in the morning to achieve clarity and focus. I never really attached that to a feeling.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Because and I'm taking this as a sort of an extreme example of and you're not saying you don't feel feelings, you're saying you don't enjoy the fact
Pay
that
much
you
attention
do.
to. Yeah, I don't pay much attention to them.
But you do feel them. You do experience feelings.
Yeah. Occasionally I do feel feelings.
I love coffee. I get a great feeling from it. I love the taste. I love how it hops me up. I am invincible with coffee. I can run through walls. I can lift cars. That being said, I'm fully aware, as much as I love coffee, the feeling passes and you have to move on with your life.
Okay.
Occasionally I do feel feelings. Okay, I'll give you one. I do feel like anger is pretty useful. Change, do things, accomplish things. Anger, yeah. There's probably some repression there. That being said, overwhelmingly, whether it's luck, good parenting, I am very, very grateful. Wait, is grateful a feeling? I don't even know. I guess that technically is, but then we're starting to get heady. You know what I mean?
I've had two close friends completely separately catch up with them for the first time in a while, and they both said, as long as I've known you, you've always been in a good mood. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's all relative. I would have never even guessed I was in a good mood until they pointed it out. That's how little I think about it. Like, I mean, obviously, if you were listening to this podcast, you could tell that I'm usually an agreeable guy. I do have wide-ranging emotions, but I'm usually feeling pretty good. I pay no attention to it.
Which is a feeling.
Exactly.
I'm
exactly.
feeling pretty
My point
good.
is I care so little about it. I do my work day in, day out. Every day is almost the same. And it's some things that are boring that I don't want to do, just like anyone else. There's some things that I really enjoy doing, and then I have to do them. And it has so little to do with the feeling. If anything, I'm trying to trick myself into doing the things that I don't want to do, just like everyone else. So my point is wouldn't life be so much harder? Like I'll do, let's bring it to actors. I have a friend, incredibly talented. They are so wrapped up in their feelings. When you're coaching them, you could see them battling their feelings. It was probably they were beating themselves up for taking direction, taking a note, and blah, blah, blah. And there was no rhyme or reason, but these feelings would just pop up. I look at them and I just wonder, I was like, do you even enjoy acting? Because I don't know. I don't even know. And I know that they love acting more than anything else. And so that always stuck out of my head, where this is a perfect example of an actor with so many feelings. And I was like, I don't know if they could get through the scene. And they're still incredibly talented, because I know that I was saying this very matter-of-factly. And I don't want to derail this, but I understand emotions and feelings are really important. And I know that I'm very fortunate because they never got out of hand. You know this. I used to volunteer at the crisis hotline. I was talking with people as a crisis counselor, with people with very extreme emotions. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing, and we would never say feelings are stupid or they're irrelevant. Feelings are very important. They're very real. And the goal of the conversation was, you're going to be safe at the end of this conversation. And when I say safe, you're not going to harm yourself or anyone else. And at the end of the night, you're going to be safe. And if at any point you did not feel safe, you call us right back. I heavily dealt with emotions for all the times I was volunteering. And so this is me because I was super curious and I want to expand my boundaries.
3 things to say about this.
Yeah.
First of all, as you know, the way that we work at the studio, at Leslie Kahn is in dealing in thoughts, not feelings, because feelings are more of a broad stroke. And
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Thoughts are where you find the specificity. But in that inherently is contained the idea that thoughts are the things that generate the feelings. Everything begins with a thought. If you're feeling scared, it begins with a thought. If you're feeling angry, happy, whatever, it begins with a thought. So thoughts
Can lead to feelings, but also to be clear, feelings was never a result or a destination.
No, but they are a
specifically.
byproduct of the thoughts.
Exactly. But feelings was never a priority. Yeah. Feelings was never a priority.
Sure.
So you can have a
Absolutely.
thought, but not a feeling.
No, but you're not worried about the feeling, but the feeling comes from the thought. Number two, as you know, we've heard a lot of actors say, or you know, we've talked about this. It's not your job as an actor to feel something. You want the audience to feel something. So this is where feelings and emotions are important for an audience watching something. Your job is to tell the story in such an effective way that they feel something. And then the way we do that is through all that specificity and thoughts. And, you know, there's so many devices, especially in, you know, film and TV. There's a whole lot goes into that. But it's not your job to feel it as you're doing it necessarily. Sometimes it happens and it's wonderful. But it doesn't have to happen. 3, I am a person who, I think for the vast majority of my life, how I felt was of critical importance to me. Like, as somebody who is also sober and spent a lot of years trying to make myself feel different, feel better, or feel more comfortable, or feel at ease, or feel happy, or feel by taking some kind of substance, a drink or whatever, to make myself feel different. It can be sugar. You know what I mean? I know that there is a substance I can take to make myself feel differently. So I understand the importance of feelings. Also, having experienced bouts of, you know, depression and things like that, that's all about the feelings. So it's
Right.
been a transition for me to move from how I feel into thoughts as it relates to acting.
So you get it. That's actually that's.
I
to
don't
be honest,
know.
I think that's kind of like what I'm. That's kind of like what I'm saying.
But I think feelings, how I feel is quite important to me, as you know, day to day as I walk around in the world, and that's why
Yeah. So how do you make that distinction? Because you just said you're trying that's something that you've cared and that was very
still care
very
about it.
deep and meaningful. Exactly. So how are you now? So after all these years, do you care about it the same amount, or do you care about it in the same way?
I don't get pulled
know what I mean?
around by it the same way. I don't get dragged around by my feelings in the same way. But what I do, I have practices in place, and I have actions I can take to not allow myself to get too attached to one state of being, and to try and maintain to be in the middle, to not be super high or super low, because I spent a lot of my life being really high, really low, really high, really low.
Yeah.
So it's been a process to find that middle ground. However, I still deal in feelings. I mean, when I'll fucking cry at the drop of a hat when I'm watching something sad, or movies will get me. So I deal in feelings a lot, and how I feel is quite important to me, and that's why I do a lot of these things, because I want to feel good.
I maybe never was pulled around as much as you were, but I think it's kind of like what you're saying, that you have grown to engage with feelings a little differently. The irony is in a way, creatively and artistically, I realize that there are feelings there. If I'm watching something impactful as an audience member, I actually will cry at the drop of a hat. The difference is I don't think about it at all. So if you're going to tell me, like, hey, there was a feeling there,
Yeah.
I never was. I observe it. I never said, this is very important to me, this feeling.
Well, I don't think I analyze it like that.
We're the same.
I don't know. I don't know that we are.
At the end of this conversation, I'm still wondering what the good of it is. Now,
Because that's what life is. Life is all about these things. There's a texture and meaning, and like, I think we're at opposite ends of the spectrum here. Because
as a writer, I am trying to get you as an audience member to feel something, and so that is how I realize that's important.
I adore watching something and feeling it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best. I love when I'm acting and I feel something. I mean, that's when that happens. That's a really special.
My day-to-day as a creator, no, I don't think about it at all. I probably need to think about it more because that's the whole point. Maybe this is the superpower. I'm not convinced yet. I'm not convinced because my point is you were looking to engage with your feelings. You thought that they were super important before, and now you're engaging with them differently.
I think they're just as important. I just don't want to be dragged around by them.
But this is good because I wanted to bridge into something you said. So 100%. I don't think I'm on the furthest spectrum. We understand that if someone is completely not in control of their feelings and emotions are extremely powerful and can be detrimental. And there's a lot of good and bad. And I'm just here intellectualizing it. I'm just wondering what the good is.
Yeah.
But the question is how do I get through all the hard parts about doing our business? I would always say, well, I mean, you got to feel good. I love coffee. I was like, hey, at the very least, drink some coffee, feel good, get that caffeine buzz. Long term, that's not really sustainable. There's a lot of actors, I was one of them, that used to think, oh, well, to have a good time, you have to drink. Or sometimes people used to drink for their acting. Drink in an acting scene or drink in a, get into that creative juices. They might use substances. A lot of times, and obviously there's a lot of, iconic writers and artists who live that life. We were led to believe that feeling was the key to our creativity. And looking back on it, in my personal experience, like we still got to do the work and the caffeine wears off. And that's kind of where my focus is. So I'm still at this point where, feelings are there. Feelings are there.
So they are there. Well, that's good. I mean, it's good that they're there. But like, okay, so to wrap this up then, would your ideal be to not feel anything? To be just productive and not have to deal with emotions at all?
I mean, to be honest, that's probably it's freaking great. Wow. That's literally me.
Wild.
Feelings are very little part of it.
So I have a friend who has aphantasia, which is a condition where they can't see images in their head at all. There's no capacity to see images or
interesting.
So so they deal entirely in feelings. When they remember things, they remember how they felt because they cannot remember, they can't see the image. Now, my brain works differently where I'm very visual and I can see things very easily and I can imagine things very easily. But they deal in feelings, and they're also a very successful actor, which is interesting to me because they don't deal in images, they deal in feelings.
Yeah, that's great. That's very interesting. That's rare. I mean, if anything, I'm more like you, very visual. To kind of pin this, to be honest, this is probably me. This is the boundaries of my comfortability. I probably understand that emotions and feelings are so strong and powerful. I'm actually guarding myself. I probably leave the feelings for the art and the acting. I know for a fact, growing up, particular songs, incredibly powerful, almost detrimental. Visuals were always extremely powerful, and that's probably what I'm doing. I'm probably guarding myself because I realize how powerful they are. That being said,
what's the jeopardy though? What's the peril there? When you say you're protecting yourself, what's the worst that could happen if you feel those feelings?
I don't know.
What is it that you're protecting yourself from?
Maybe I prefer to be even keeled and balanced and not ride that roller coaster. That might be it. Yeah. And then on the spectrum, I probably need to ride more roller coasters. I'm always looking for a balance. I'm an adrenaline junkie just like you. That being said, I'm also on the flip side of it. If I get too much into routine, too much, I need the adventure. So I'm always finding that balance, and maybe that's it. Maybe I've been protecting myself.
That was a wild discussion that I never expected.
I know, exactly. I want to throw that at you.
It was good.
There was a closing point to this. Let me link this into my hidden gem. Mark Manson, he's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He has a podcast now. He's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Now, exactly. His podcast, really interesting. He'll do one once a month, and he'll deep dive on a discussion. I'm talking about his podcast is 3 hours long, over 3 hours. Be thankful, everyone, that we do not do that. But he does really in-depth research. One of his was about confidence. One part was about specifically visualizations, whether it's vision boarding, visualization, very popular in the creative fields, athletic fields, and so on. And the study showed that those who did visualizations, they actually put in less effort. They were focusing on the outcome, visualizing it, and they almost embodied the fact that they already accomplished it. They actually had less effort and less output. To be clear, it was more important how you visualized. If you visualize the process, the obstacles that you'll encounter in your objective, in your plan, then that could work. I thought it was a really great insight. Maybe we'll bring it back on the podcast sometime and talk about it further. But there you go. That's my hidden gem. Oh, wait, sorry. I just want to echo the poetry of Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and then also me saying feelings are stupid. That gives you an idea where my head is. And, you know, there will be a part 2, Rían and I discussing this. Anyway, go ahead.
So I use these things a lot, but I don't talk about them very much. They are Australian bushflower essences, if you can see if you're watching on video there. And these are mists that you can just spray that smell fantastic, but they also, you know, God. So there's like room clearing spray, there's like calm spray, you know, you can just, cool. These mists that I find to be just great. I adore them. So Australian bushflower essences, you can buy them online because they're from Australia. And
what's the flavor of that one? What's the
this is called space clearing.
Wow.
So you can spray it on your skin. You can just spray it around the room.
This is so perfect. Your hidden gem of our conversation is just space clearing. Let's have a nice, pleasant smell in the house. Exactly. I do great self-care. That being said, you're aspirational. I need to clean the apartment. I want to have nice scents. That's a great hidden gem for this episode. There Beautiful. You go. All right, smell good, feel good, everyone. That's our episode. Enjoy. That's our episode. And we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Hope you enjoyed the episode, everyone. Just so you know, we have video on YouTube and Substack, and we're on all platforms at Actors Guide Podcast. And we just started a Patreon. If you want to support the podcast, $5 a month.
We'll love you forever.
It helps us keep doing the podcast and make it even better. Thanks, everyone.